Hello and welcome back to Walk the Cinema Podcast. Today's the last episode of the year for us, so we're going out with a bang, talking about one of, in my opinion, all-time greats, Harakiri.
So this was a rewatch for you. It was a first-time watch for me.
Yes, I've been selling this to you for years now.
It has been years since you first told me about it. And I've always, looked at it and I was like, I know it'll be good.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure it'll be good. I just, have never been particularly in the mood to watch it,
Mm-hmm.
But we really, I wouldn't say we forced ourselves. But...
No, I was insistent that this would be the last movie of the year because it's so good.
Yeah.
I think at points I called it the greatest movie of all time.
Yeah.
Now I wouldn't say that because simply I just wouldn't say any movie is the greatest movie of all time.
Right.
I think it's impossible. But this came the closest to me if I had to put one.
At number one.
Yeah, because it's technically so perfect to me. Like, yeah, the acting is really good, and the story is really good, and the directing is good. But then you have the set design, which is, I think, an all-time set design. It's so engrossing and so beautiful. Just everything about it. Literally, it's perfect. The angles that the angles that the director chooses seem purposeful. Like he switches to a Dutch angle when you realize that the guy is gonna perform the Harakiri, and you know that it's not by mistake. Like a lot of directors use it because it's a different angle or whatever. He uses angles really well. He uses the pan camera really well. The music is really subtle and beautiful, but it's never in the way. Like, a scene is never dominated by its music. It's always dominated by the dialogue.
Yeah. I mean, I don't really have, that many opinions on necessarily the technical aspect of it, but I would say just from a story perspective, it's really compelling. Mm-hmm. And at its core, I'd say it's a movie about hypocrisy. Kind of. And,
yeah.
It's
the hypocrisy of society.
Yeah.
Because the story, if you're not familiar, starts with a samurai shows up, a Ronin samurai, so he's out of work. Mm-hmm. He's masterless. He shows up, he gets told the story of another samurai that went there to commit suicide. Mm-hmm. And we see that the samurai wasn't actually trying to commit suicide, but they kind of forced him to uphold his honor.
Yeah. And as this, story progresses, they're like, oh, well, are you sure you want to do the suicide? Because we, made the other guy do it. Yeah. And so...
And even the movie itself kind of, makes you kind of side with the house.
Yeah, a little bit.
Because it's oh, look at this fool with his bamboo swords. And then it progresses and you know why he has bamboo swords. Mm. And now your opinion changes. And I think that's why the movie is so impactful on me. I've felt the first time I watched this that I'd never been fooled by a movie this hard into completely changing my opinion on one of the characters.
I mean, I feel like I always still felt a little bit of sympathy.
No, of course.
For the bamboo samurai. Because I don't know, and this is such a different culture and way of life than I think I've ever, come across or experienced or done research on, because when I think of the 1600s, I think of something very, because this is when the movie takes place, I think of something very different because I feel like even in upper level history classes, if it's not specifically tailored to Asian cultures, the default is always European cultures.
Because that's what affects the United States culture later on.
Yeah.
But this Japanese culture is super advanced and there's a clear structure that you don't even need to know. You don't need to know the history behind Imperial Japan to know what's going on in this movie. And it doesn't explain the samurai culture or anything, but it doesn't leave you asking too many questions either.
No, it doesn't leave you with a lot of ambiguity, I guess, in terms of structure. I think 100% if you knew the kind of cultural implications and the societal implications of the samurai life in this era, you'd probably get at least a little bit more out of it.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, at the core, you kind of you get the honor system type thing,
and it's human. It's based on the society. It's based on humans being individuals, which I think is the big takeaway.
Yeah,
where like you're looking at this just as another one of the many that try to fool you, but you're not looking at him as an individual with an individual story, which is what we learn towards the middle end.
Yeah, because I feel like at least there is the air of hypocrisy in this, because it's like the samurais of the house, especially the counselor, take the stance that they're very traditional.
Yeah, they're
samurais.
All about honor. They're all about tradition. But then you learn that they're kind of weak. And a group of them is not enough to kill one man. Because they're more about honor than they are about practice.
Yeah,
so they're not real samurai in that sense.
There's that, but then also even in practice too, they don't practice what they preach, you know? Like if you get bested by another samurai and they take your top knot, you're supposed to kill yourself if you don't.
Yeah, you lost all your honor.
Yeah.
But they decide to lie and hide and pretend it didn't happen.
And so that really shows the hypocrisy and kind of makes it true what our main character says, where the way of the samurai, or like the life of a samurai, is pretty much all a facade.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of, he did prove it to him.
Right. And it's known that Kobayashi, the director, hated this type of lifestyle and he hated Imperial Japan and all of that. Mm. And this is like he's proving it to us that this is not something he glorifies in Japanese history.
Yeah. And I'd say that this is different from other samurai movies because granted, I haven't seen a lot of them, so I can't speak on all samurai movies, but I have seen some that kind of glorify that way of life, where the kind of staunch honor system is praised and looked to as an example. And this kind of does the opposite. Yeah. And it shows like how bad that this type of way can be, because even as something as simple as the bamboo swords, he sold his real swords to pay for his wife and child's care, because they were sick,
right,
and they didn't have anything. But you know, the older samurai, his own daughter was sick, and he didn't even think about selling his sword, right, because it's so ingrained in him that this is his most valuable possession, that it's like an extension of him.
Yeah, it doesn't even come to his mind that he could sell it.
Yeah. And it's kind of like, if you look at it in a different way, it's much more honorable to sell your most valuable possession to help those that you love than it is to hold on to it for dear life and for you know.
Yeah, and the bamboo Ronin, as he gets called by the people of the town, he is the only truly honorable one, because he was going to kill himself because he realized that's what he had to do. But even then he asked for a day or two to tell his wife, to tell his father-in-law, and to see his kid one last time. But all we saw was a coward that wanted to run away. That's the implication, and that's what they all believe in the house. But then we learned that's not it. He would have come back and killed himself. But he was doing it to just tell the people that depended on him that he was going to do it.
Yeah.
So he's the only honorable one, and he doesn't get anything for it.
No, he doesn't get remembered for it. He doesn't get, anything. And so, that's, at the end, it does kind of at least make me, frustrated and, fired up, kind of.
Yeah, it's not, an uplifting ending.
No, because everything gets swept under the rug. They just go and say that, they both committed Harakiri, and the soldiers that died on that day just kind of were due to illness.
They cover it all up with lies to protect the honor. And
then they get praised for how they handled these so-called, honorable samurais that just wanted money. That's kind of how it's spun, and it's so unfortunate, you know?
But it's beautiful in a way, though. The movie is sad all
It
the way
is.
through. I don't think there's any uplifting moments, but it's still beautiful.
Yeah. It is.
And it is Kobayashi. He did the Human Condition trilogy.
Mm.
And this is not about the human condition, but it kind of is, where he still connects the human dots of the story so well that you feel sorry for everyone. But you also understand why the bad guys, quote unquote, did what they did. So that's...
You kind of... I mean, you do understand
You understand why. You don't gotta respect it or accept
Yeah.
it, but you understand it. You understand
least-
why from a human level.
At
they
least
did it.
in the context of, like,
Yeah.
how they operate, you understand why.
And from a human level, they felt like, oh, we're not gonna let this guy take care of, or like...
Take advantage.
Yeah, pull one over us. Let's make him do what he says he wants to do. That's them being human, as well as samurai, and saying that they want to stand up for themselves and not be like the other loser houses that just give them money.
Mm.
Again, it becomes about honor, because they want to be the honorable house.
But there really is no such... I think there's no such thing as honor in this, like... in this way. You know what I mean? Because everybody does, like, dishonorable stuff. At least the characters that we...
I mean, the samurai
focus on.
of the house, their honor is all superficial, because when it comes to actual being samurai, they have to fight. They don't.
Yeah.
They've never faced battle, which the older samurai did. And they never really learn how to fight. They just learn how to be a samurai on the surface. But once there's hundreds of them trying to kill one guy, they can't really do it.
Yeah, they have to bring out guns.
Yeah, that's kind of the point. They couldn't beat him on one-on-one combat. They couldn't beat him as a group, so they just shot him. That's the only way they can put him down.
Yeah. Crazy.
But all great movies are sad.
I mean, I don't know if that's necessarily true, but I will say some of the ones that I have given a 10 in the past are kind of...
So you're spoiling the 10.
sad. Yeah, I am spoiling the 10. I guess I am.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think it's a 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
A lot of people would agree.
Yeah, I'd say that this is something that I definitely would want to rewatch and has made me think, and it does make me feel something, you know, where it's not necessarily good emotions, right? But it fires me up, I'd say, because it's just you kind of end this movie wishing things were different, you know.
Right.
And
But you know it's just going to go on for that house.
Yeah. But it's kind of special in a way, I'd say, where it makes you feel like you know the truth. Like you carry the truth with you.
Yeah, you were one of the only ones that left this house with the truth.
Yeah.
Because you're outside of it.
Yeah. Which is nice and poetic, I guess, in some type of way. I don't know if was his ultimate goal, but I feel like sometimes it, just with other Japanese movies that I've seen, I feel like they do kind of play into the audience a little bit. I don't know. And not as a whole, but just kind of, I've seen similar things in Japanese movies before.
I've seen a lot more movies from this director. I just got the Eclipse series, where he has like 4 of his earlier films that I already seen, but I bought them because I want to watch them again. And you can tell that he's very purposeful in his message. He really doesn't make a movie to make a movie. When you see it's Kobayashi, you know there's something behind it. And it's worth investing yourself into. And I think this is peak. Some people would say it's the Human Condition. But this is top 3 on Letterboxd, I think. And like in the top 100 on IMDb, and just a lot of lists. And in my personal opinion, I would also put it in like my top 5 or 3 even. But it doesn't make other lists. And I don't really understand why. I'm not criticizing the list. Like the Sight and Sound list came out maybe a month ago.
Yeah, I'm not really, I don't remember.
this doesn't feature either the director or the critics, but even the critics list doesn't feature Come and See, which is number 1 on Letterboxd.
Yeah.
So it's different perspective, I suppose, but
yeah, because
to me this is it.
Because to be fair, I'm not really sure how this holds up when people look at filmmaking. I do agree that he does, like, nothing he does filmmaking wise is by chance. Like, I think he's very purposeful, but I wonder if it has something to do with that, why it's not on, say, the Sight and Sound list.
I think it's incredibly sound movie. Like, it's everything about it is perfect, except I could see critics for the pacing.
But I would say that the pacing is partially like what gets me into the movie, because it does kind of have a slow build where you kind of it kind of leads you to expect one thing and then kind of flips it.
It switches on you multiple times and it keeps you guessing.
Yeah, so at the beginning, you just think that these two samurais just have very similar stories, but that one was a coward and one is not. That's kind of what you get.
Right.
And to be fair, like, I kind of thought at the beginning, trying to think about where this could be going, I kind of thought that maybe this was like so far in the future that the young samurai that came might have been him, where they made him play up like he was going to kill himself, and then they let him go, and this was him coming back to...
No, they make him kill himself, and it's brutal.
Yeah.
Like, even... I mean, it's a movie, so it's not real, but even watching him force himself onto the bamboo sword because he can't pierce himself with it is brutal.
Yeah.
And it makes me wince.
Yeah. But so you go through that, and you see that they did make him kill himself, so it was kind of like, okay, sure. But then you learn that our samurai that we're taking this journey with knew the young samurai, and it was his son-in-law at that.
Yeah, and he raised him like his own son.
Yeah, and how, essentially our older samurai was supposed to die, but he didn't, because his friend sacrificed himself so that he could live and he could take care of his son and, all this other stuff. So I think that there is some sort of like guilt on a lot of different levels for him. And then, as the story progresses, you get more of like, you hear this really sad tale, and you're kind of hoping that this changes the mind of the house people, but it doesn't.
I think it does, just not that the counselor is willing to admit.
That's true. I think that they do kind of understand that, like, oh,
there's more
we
to people.
are wrong, yeah.
There's more to people than, like, lumping him as a part of this group that just wants money, whatever. He's an individual, and other individuals have individual stories. And being a samurai kind of lumps you into a group where you're not supposed to be an individual. You're supposed to follow a code of honor, and you're expected to do everything like everyone else.
Yeah.
So that's why they don't see him as an individual with its own story. But to be fair, neither do we, as the audience, to begin with. We see him as kind of the coward that he's played to be by the house.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, I think that it does a good job at, like, even though, like, personally, you might think that this way of life or this, honor code is silly, or that it has, like, no real meaning, it still convinces you that this character is cowardly in some type of way, that he's taking advantage of the goodwill of other people. But, like, even still, I think that, at least while I was watching, when they, actually started to make him harakiri on his own bamboo sticks, that is really hard, and it's kind of like, did you have to do that? It's
the lack of goodwill from other people that landed him where he was, because he tried everything, and this was a last resort type thing, where he really didn't want to do it, and he looked down on other people that did it, but his son is dying, and he has no choice.
His son and his wife are dying.
Yeah, and he sold everything he owns, including his swords, and he's gone to everyone he knows, but he can't do anything because he's a samurai, so he's expected to do samurai work.
Yeah.
But that doesn't exist because it's time of peace. There's no wars going on. No one needs a samurai.
Yeah.
So he kind of just has to do what he hates others doing.
Which, again, that's more honorable than anything that the house is doing,
It's great. It's a great movie.
Yeah.
If you haven't seen it for some reason, you need to.
It's definitely worth a watch, and it's definitely... I'm not sure if I would put it in my top 3, but I definitely feel like it's 100% worth the watch. It's so interesting and so like I really like the pacing. It kept me entertained and like wanting more, and I felt like I was expecting, you know, one thing, and then it would like kind of give me it, but not exactly how I thought it was going to plan out. And I feel like it was even better than how I had envisioned it, you know, as we were going through the story.
Yeah, I think watching it for the first time, it's just so unique in the way that it builds the story. And also, I think this is the first time we agree on a 10 out of 10 for the podcast.
For the podcast, maybe.
Oh, no, we've done Inglourious Basterds.
That's true, that's true.
But, I mean, we're very enthusiastic about it. I am, at least. And I feel your enthusiasm bearing on me. I'm very happy we watched this. I'm very happy we ended the year on this. It's sad, but I like sad movies.
It is sad. It's not as sad. Obviously, I've had many more movies that have made me
they're sadder
straight
movies.
up cry, but this didn't make me cry, but it more of like, you feel for everyone involved. You get, and 100% you feel like a rage, I'd say, like a simmering rage that this played out how it did. At least that's how I would describe the feeling. Is it's definitely. Like, it's not full on rage, right? Because you still feel like he was able to achieve what he wanted to.
He did exactly what he set himself to do at the house, where he went in and told his story, tried to change their minds, and then died. At the end, the counselor says he did Harakiri, which on technical terms he didn't, because Ara means belly and Kiri means cut, so he didn't cut his own stomach open. But he did kill himself. That was a suicide mission, and he knew he wasn't coming out with his life. So in a way, he did commit suicide. Just not the way we'd expect. Yeah.
But I think that for his character, like, his story felt complete. He really did, you know, lose everybody he cared about. And I think he did his... Like, he's able to go out knowing that he at least attempted to bring perspective to these people and try to change their ways, and unfortunately it didn't really happen. They did kind of see that, oh, we may not be like the greatest, but that doesn't mean we're gonna stop doing what we do best. So
and no one's not gonna know we're not the greatest if we don't tell them that.
Exactly. Like, it really is. It's 100% that thing where it's the winners write history. Yeah. Where it's like, I'm sure there are hundreds, thousands, millions of stories that kind of are told one way, but it really happened a different way.
Yeah, the winner writes history. That's it. Yeah. And that will always be true. Yeah. But I guess that's all we have for today, and we'll be back next year with great movies as always, and great guests. Couple awful movies too, because those are fun sometimes.
Yeah, but we will see you guys in the next year, and we hope you guys have a wonderful December.